Good morning, good afternoon, I guess afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and looking forward to the holidays. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, who is Teresa Wilson. She was a municipal trailblazer, leads the executive team for South Carolina Capital City. Columbia is growing and developing on a daily basis, and City Manager Wilson is focused on taking the city operations to the next level. On a daily basis, she works diligently to address the needs of residents in the community while also focusing on public safety and economic development initiatives. Teresa Wilson is a proven leader and has a hands-on experience working with business communities to develop projects that will be the catalyst for future economic growth. Enhancing the quality of life in Columbia is a primary focus for City Manager Wilson, and her commitment was aptly displayed during the process to identify and select a strong leader to transform the Columbia Police Department. Public safety, which includes fire protection, emergency service, is at the core of not only the stability of neighborhoods, but also the continued success of business community. Code enforcement operations have also been merged into the police department to solidify the process for maintaining clean, safe communities and hospital districts. In 2016, Wilson shepherded a one-year strategic planning process that yields focused areas and goals that will propel the city of Columbia towards the future. The plan challenges citizens to envision Columbia in the year 2036. 7 focus areas and 5 goals are outlined in the City Council vision statement called A Vision Columbia. Wilson and her city executive leadership team have developed a work plan that is closely connected to the Envision Columbia goals. The internal work plans will be reevaluated and updated every 2 years. I'd like to welcome you all and welcome to Teresa, and we're looking forward to hearing about your leadership skills, how it is to be a woman in charge of a city like Columbia, what challenges you've had as a woman in your position, and as you've gone through to become who you are. So I welcome you, Teresa, and turning it over to you.
Thank you, Tanya. I was always smile as I'm listening to the introduction. It's so humbling and it takes you back because to your point about being a woman in this role, it's certainly been a journey to get to this point, and to do the type work that I'm doing is a compilation of a lot of things, which didn't have anything to do with local governance, honestly, when I look back on it, but it certainly had to do with a lot of life experiences and having good people around me and good women around me in my lifetime, to most importantly include my mother. But I first want to say thank you all for having me today. I apologize that I wasn't able to do it last month. I was ill, and I told Barbara Rax that I will still do this. I just don't know how I'm going to sound, and I don't know how effective I'll be because I was feeling pretty poorly at the time, and my voice was not sounding so great. So thank you all for your patience and understanding on that, and I'm glad we were able to reschedule. I asked Barbara as well, what exactly did you want me to talk about? You know, I'm always more just congenial and like to have people have more of a dialogue and a conversation. And so I guess I can start off by, again, carrying on what I initially said as far as my life experiences brought me here. I didn't initially think when I was in law school that I was going to use my law degree in a different way. I learned early on when I was in law school that I didn't want to practice law in a traditional way, but I still hadn't quite figured it out. And I kind of leaned into some of my mentors professionally that I had well in undergrad and then also law school, working with Shirley Mills. As I talk about women in my life, of course, my mother, who guided me and still guides me and shoots it to me straight every day. But then there was also Shirley Mills, who at the time was the Director of Governmental Affairs and Community Relations for the University of South Carolina. And so when I was an undergrad, I got to know her well and worked as a student assistant in the Office of the President and started my relationship. She mentored me in doing advocacy work. She was their chief lobbyist. And I realized even in law school that I was still enjoying that type of work. And so ultimately, fast forwarding, I ended up working with Shirley at the university and doing governmental affairs and lobbied in the State House for many years with her and some of the other leadership at USC. And really, I think, honed my skills to advocate in the lobby. And ultimately, I think those same skills were showcased because my assignment was working for city government at the time, and it still is the case. The University of South Carolina is such a big player in our city, growing, and those relationships have to be strong with the local municipality on many levels. And so the relationships I had with USC, when I would have to come to city council, and at that time watch Mayor Bob Coble and the city council members then addressing university issues through the city, I learned how city government worked. And the then city manager, Charles Austin, who has also been a huge mentor of mine, decided that he was looking for someone to manage the day-to-day governmental affairs for the city of Columbia. And so I decided after he offered me an opportunity to start something new, they didn't have a director of governmental affairs at the city. I stepped out on faith and decided that I would give that a try. And so that's how I got to the city of Columbia, and that's how I got to doing local government work. When I came, Chief Austin obviously had some contract lobbyists. He wanted a more defined approach as to how the city would do things in that space. And so I worked with those lobbyists. I worked with city department heads and others to, lobby city issues every day and create our platform and work with the mayor and council on policy issues. And that's really how I guess I cut my teeth at the city. And from there, there were other duties as assigned. And I ultimately became an assistant city manager where I oversaw several departments. And then as the leadership changed at the city and a new mayor came on board, Mayor Steve Benjamin, another city manager had been seated for several years, and it was then time for him to retire. And so there came this opportunity for the city to do a nationwide search for a city manager. And I wasn't even thinking about applying for that job. I was pretty happy with what I was doing as an assistant city manager and overseeing my department, still doing governmental affairs as well. But I was encouraged to apply. And I think some of the reasons that I was encouraged to apply was that I was a hometown girl. I grew up in Irmo, South Carolina, not too far from Columbia, and had been here all my life and knew the city. I knew the issues by then pretty well. And I think the perspective that I brought as a hometown person, but also as a female, and how to advocate with those skills from my law background assisted me in ultimately, I guess, standing out and getting the position offered to me as city manager. And that was back in 2013. So I've been with the city 17 years, been the manager almost 11 years, and have tried to lead with integrity. I've tried to, even early on in the city manager role, acknowledge that most people who are successful in municipal governments recognize early on that citizens care about a lot of things, but the things you typically hear about are public safety and the finances. And so I immediately knew I needed to make a few changes in that regards with our leadership structure here at the city. And I embarked upon creating this chief financial officer role as one of my assistant city managers. And I'm very proud of that individual who was our treasurer at the time and was willing to step up and lead with me and has been in that role with me ever since. And some of you who are from Columbia knew or may remember that we had a revolving door if you look back at media reports, the police chiefs at the time. And my goal was to find the best police chief in the country that would come to Columbia and want to make this his or her home and take care of our city like it was his or her own. And I found that in Chief Skip Holbrook, who is still with us today and is my friend, and trust him immensely with the safety of our citizens and our city. So those were two big hires. I think Tanya asked about my leadership philosophy, and I think I'm pretty rigid in certain things that I feel like are requirements for quality and expectations that I set on myself. So I set that on my team and try to always keep the best experts around me because I certainly don't know everything. I'm humble and like to be in the backdrop. I like for our policymakers to shine. I think that's my role. Which makes a council manager form of government work very well, in my opinion. I am hired to be the COO of the city, make sure the day-to-day operations of 2,300 employees and every department from Parks and Recreation to Public Works is functioning as it should. But I'm neutral. I'm not politically motivated. I understand the politics because I have to, because I work with 7 elected officials and I'm the only one who reports to them besides the city attorney. And so I do understand how they move. I make a point to understand it, but I also make a point to try to guide them with honesty, frankness, candor, and not getting my feelings hurt too easily either when I know they may have to make certain decisions, whether it's along the lines of my recommendations or not. So that's, I guess, an overview. And I know I've probably left out a lot of what kind of how I got to this point in my career and how I try to lead with integrity on a daily basis so the citizens of Columbia can feel confident and comfortable and proud that our city is being run with due care, grace, and fiscal responsibility.
Thank you. If you'd like to ask questions, just put them into the chat and I will read them back. One question I have is, what has been your biggest challenge as a woman in your position?
Well, there are not a lot of women in local government, Tanya, for I think, was that Tanya who asked, or Trish, I'm sorry, Trish.
That's okay.
I said that right. I saw Tanya Gilly when you were
That's
talking.
okay. My boyfriend's grandchildren call me Miss Trash, so I'm.
So I'm not gonna call you that.
Okay.
But I do know that it is very important for women to be at the table. And in local government, I want to say the percentage of women in the C-suite or, in management positions is probably, it's always hovered around 13%. And then being a woman of color, I see even less women who look like me when I'm in most settings of local government professionals. And so I think the challenge would be just that, coming prepared, knowing I'm already prepared, knowing that I can certainly do this job. But on top of that, when maybe the majority of folks who've always done this job are not used to women doing it. It's just an automatic barrier that I don't let stand in my way. I just try to come correct, be myself, showcase what I'm about, and go from there. But I do think it's important for other young women who may aspire to do these type jobs to still see that. And so what I've tried to do, I'm now president of the South Carolina City and County Managers and Administrators for our state. And I represent, all the city and county managers in our state at our national meetings. I try to be very open to talking about how wonderful public service can be for a woman, how as long as you have your village around you, which I was raising as a single mom when I took this job, recently divorced at the time, raising my daughter and not acknowledging that there was going to be a time commitment to this. But I really felt like, as my grandmother told me at the time, who's no longer with me, that it was my time and that God wouldn't have put me in that place unless it was my time. So my mother, my father, my family unit that was around me to help raise my daughter, who's now a 20-year-old junior at the University of South Carolina Honors College, she was able to see me push hard, work hard, what it means to have a good work ethic. And I do see those traits in her. So I do think modeling behaviors, modeling what it looks like to serve the public and enjoy doing it and still have a quality of life means something to women who may aspire to do these things. My intentions have been supported here at the city because fortunately we've always had a mayor like Mayor Benjamin and now Mayor Rickaman who support women doing these jobs, who like having college students around us. There's always students at City Hall. They've always made a point, which I also like to do, to have young people around us so they can understand what your civic responsibilities are, but we also learn from them. There's so many new ways and new ideas now. And Ashley Jenkins Wood, who is started as a college mayor's fellow, decided I'm using her as an example because she's sitting right here in the room with me, and she's been with me ever since she was a mayor's fellow under Mayor Benjamin. And then she decided she wanted to work for the city. And so we kept Ashley, and she has grown immensely in learning local governance, went on to get her master's in public administration, and is just a bright star. And so I try to meet those challenges. To answer your question, I just, hustling and working really hard and showing others that this job can be done quite well by a woman.
Particularly a single mother.
That part too.
Yeah. Emily had a good statement question. I think a lot of people see the vitriol of national politics and are put off of engaging civically. What role do politics and partnership play in local government as opposed to state and federal government?
So local government, to me, I always say this when I'm talking to groups like you all, or young people, or elementary school kids, or business owners, that local government is where it's at. I mean, citizens typically, or small business owners, when they have an issue, is typically, in most instances, going to be something that can be most immediately addressed at the local level. And so when we conduct ourselves professionally and get things done efficiently, effectively, I think that goes a long way in I guess being or demonstrating how things should be done versus the vitriol and the name calling and the discussions politically. The staff, typically on the staff level, we are not immersed in that. But I also think, as I said earlier, as a manager, you can also help set the tone for your council and your elected officials to encourage their interactions with each other to be productive and effective and civil. And that is something that I do try to help facilitate. And so I hope that citizens, I think I hear this. I mean, we don't always get all the good feedback, obviously, because sometimes somebody needs a new roll card or their water bill is messed up or whatever it might be. And so we're certainly not perfect, but we do try very hard as staff, and I can only speak for me and my staff at the City of Columbia to do good works and to have good follow through. Corey, I'm not sure if it's doing. I hope they can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, to have people's concerns and questions answered in the right way, in a timely way, and to make sure we're handling ourselves accordingly and civilly. Because there are a lot of things, whether it's taxes or federal issues or things like that. And obviously, citizens have their state representatives as well. But if, local government is entrusted with keeping the water clean and the roads and streets safe and, other public safety matters and wonderful parks for people to enjoy a good quality of life with their family, that's local government all day long. And so I feel like our literal interactions are there on a daily basis. So we need to be demonstrating ourselves accordingly to citizens and business owners.
Jolene says, do you think your law degree gave you a better perspective as a city manager? And if so, how?
I think I don't know about perspective wise. I think the perspective probably, as I said earlier, comes more from me being born and raised here and understanding, our people, our wonderful people, citizens of Columbia, and things that we're yearning for and what we want Columbia to aspire to be. I mean, that's in my fabric because I'm from here. But I do think my law degree has assisted me every single day. As right before getting on this call with you all, was talking to my staff about the importance of detail and negotiations of major contracts and development deals. I'm so excited, and you all will be too, in the next several months and years to come about some things that are really on the horizon for Columbia. But the devil's always in the details with some major developments that are unfolding for us. So I do think my law degree and reading a lot and being detail oriented helped me with my job every day.
Don says, what characteristics and leadership attributes do you believe assist you in being an effective leader?
I mentioned, trying to lead with integrity. I mentioned that earlier, but I also, I don't take myself too seriously. I know that out of, almost 2,300 employees on any given day, and it's not like I get to interact with every single one of them every day, but I try my best to interact with them a lot. That people have lives, and their lives and their families and their health affect them. And so I think as a leader, I do try to acknowledge that and meet people where they are, which gives me some perspective sometimes when we're dealing with HR matters or coming out of COVID and knowing a municipality typically doesn't work a certain type way, but we demonstrated we could do it during COVID and figured out for those, it's not the vast majority of our employees, but for those back of the office functions, for example, that can work, have, alternate work schedules or work from home, or, meet needs of people who may have family needs that they have to also attend to. I try to be that type of leader where I'm not so rigid that I don't recognize that we have to flex and we have to come up with solutions. So I think I'm solutions oriented. I'm very, I love on my people. I care about them. I try to demonstrate that I do, when what my expectations are, but I do try to do that.
Emily says, what is the greatest challenges you face as a city manager?
It changes a lot of times depending on if it's, a 1,000-year rain event that created a flood none of us ever expected, and being ready with dealing with crises and emergency management and operations. I mean, there's that level of a challenge, but then there's just the day-to-day now with our market, the economics of it all, and what I kind of was talking about earlier, engaging employees in a way now to have an effective workforce, because since COVID, so much truly has changed. I mean, you all hear about it, I know, in all of your industries and your spheres of influence, but it is certainly real for local government as well. And keeping good people, making sure that we can flex now to be able to offer certain things that you probably typically wouldn't have had to think about previously. From a public service perspective, that's been very challenging to adjust to some of those things.
What do you think is, what advice would you give to young women who are starting out, and even women in various age brackets on this call, to get into a position level like yours? I know a lot of women feel like they're not qualified, they can't do it because of their family needs. There's a lot of barriers that women put to themselves. What would you tell women to do, or how would you tell women to approach something that they really want, and even though they might not be thoroughly qualified for in their mind, but probably are anyway?
Right. Well, I think I'm a true example of that. I mentioned that when the opportunity presented itself to even apply for city manager, I was doing that very thing, Trish, that you just said. I was trying to check every single box. Well, I don't have my master's in public administration. And my mom reminded me, yeah, but you have your law degree. Okay, that's true. Well, I have my little girl here. I don't want to be taking too much time away from her. You have quite the village around you, and we're here to support you. So I think I would tell women to have not just mentors, but true advocates, who are going to sometimes remind us that you don't have to have every box checked exactly according to what you might think it should be, but look broader and look deeper at your abilities, look at what infrastructure you can put around you if it's already not around you. And I always say that I really, and I believe this, that, you need maybe a few people like that, probably less than the number you can count on one hand, who are going to be those type advocates for you, whether it's a family member, friend, colleague, but they're real with you, and they're going to shoot it to you straight, and they're going to build you up when you are having those doubts. They're also going to remind you when, you need to get yourself in check a little bit. And so I think having the right people around you all the time that you can trust is very beneficial when it comes to life-changing decisions, particularly when it comes to career moves that you can bounce things off of. And I guess help you ensure that you're making those right decisions, but that you're not passing up opportunities either. Because I agree with you, Trish, as women, in my own experience, and then as I have kind of grown out of that and tried to work with aspiring professionals, we do tend to underestimate our abilities. Men don't do that. They will just typically just step out and be like, well, I'll figure it out as I go. And we like to, more so in my experience, dot every I and cross every T. And sometimes it isn't necessary. I mean, you better be qualified, you better know, but some of the other things that and it just comes with being a mother or a daughter or a friend at the level that I believe women tend to do it. We're going to think those things through in a different way. And I think sometimes we need each other to remind us that it can be done.
You mentioned that we do things in a different way. And I agree with you. A lot of women do things in a different way than men do. There are still some patriarchal women out there who think they still have to do things the way men do it or the way the patriarchy does it. But I think women tend to be a little bit different. What do you think you bring to the job as a woman that is different than what a man would bring to the job in that position?
That's a great question, because you don't want to find yourself, just because you're a woman in a male dominated field, for example, that you're trying to prove yourself, or you're taking on characteristics that really aren't authentic. And so I try to come with my authentic self. I do prepare. I mean, I'm going to be honest, because I want to always, I'm just a lifelong learner for one thing, but I also want to be at the table and be prepared at the table. And that's what people, I think, would come to expect of me. So I think, putting that recognition on preparation, and that you just can't wing it all the time, or it's not a good old boys club, that kind of thing. I mean, that's one thing as a woman that I do. But I think I can hold my own with any other man in my profession as well. So a certain level of confidence and wisdom that I think you have to grow into that. I'm not the same city manager that I was in 2013 that I am now, that's for sure. But that comes with growth and development, and being willing to be a lifelong learner who's going to go to seek professional development and encourage others to do that, and not think that it's just all about me, but bringing that spirit of, I want everyone around me to be just as great. And I'm not selfish in that way. And I think sometimes women, or at least speaking for me, for myself, I think we bring that to the table sometimes, acknowledging that there's growth potential in others and trying to create an atmosphere where that's cultivated.
And you have a very difficult job, any city manager, but the bigger the city, the more headaches. What do you do for self-care that's just for you, that women tend to forget sometimes, that we need self-care?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, I'm on pretty much 24/7. I get the calls at 2 a.m. from the fire chief and the police chief and all that. So it is tiring and overwhelming at times. So I really cherish my time with my family, with my daughter. She's getting older and really finding her passions in life and wherever her journey is going to take her. So I like spending quality time with my mom, my dad, as they're getting older, and my daughter in particular. And then I just like to be in my pajamas. I really like my home. I have a new home. I'm working on lots of things at that house, but I enjoy, decorating and just being quiet because I'm talking all day. And I'm not a big social media person, although I'm being encouraged right now to be a little more present. Like I said, I'm very comfortable behind the scenes, but I do enjoy our citizens. I do enjoy interacting with my employees. I've just always, that's just sort of been my thing. I'm not big on social media and that sort of thing, but I think we're doing a lot of good things, and I'm hearing my public and media relations staff encouraging me to step out a little bit more and be more visible, even more visible and present. So we'll see how that goes. But with that, I am going to have to, as you just said, Trish, be more purposeful about my quality of life and my time. I was out and I struggled over it, but I'm so glad I did it. I needed to, have a surgery, and I was out this past summer for 8 weeks, and I was like, okay, I have the best people around me. My team, I put them up against anybody in the country. I'm gonna do this. And this was one time I wasn't on the emails every day when I was home recovering. I rested and I tried to relax. And I checked in, we got a schedule going, I would check in, but I think we get to those places in life where we do realize, whether it's because of a medical reason or not, that you will be stopped if you don't stop it for yourself and figure it out. So I'm trying to be more intentional about that, and walking, and just having some quiet time, quiet moments.
Great advice. I mean, who doesn't want to try to go back after surgery a lot sooner than we should?
Mm-hmm.
I did that one. Not a smart thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Are there any other questions? I've been asking a lot. What professional accomplishments bring you to the most pride? And that's from Emily.
Emily, I think I may have referenced it a little bit earlier, but I guess I can underscore the fact that I brought a police chief to Columbia, South Carolina, that has made it his home. I knew he was the right person. I think because they were coming from West Virginia, and they had a daughter who was my daughter's age at the time. My daughter and Chief Holbrook's daughter, actually, when they came here, they started her at the same. When they were at different elementary schools, but then they came together for middle school almost immediately that next year, and they've been friends ever since. So I was concerned about the family unit. Like, okay, I know he's our guy, but I want Michelle and the children to be comfortable in Columbia. And I really sincerely mean that, for him to get here and stay, it was going to mean the family was secure and happy being here. And so I do look at that as one of my biggest accomplishments, because you can't ever say someone's going to be anywhere forever, but all indications are that he plans to be here and see us through some significant developments that are on the horizon with the police department as well. And that's such a critical role in the city. I mentioned the chief financial officer, Jeff Palin, who is still with us and doing a phenomenal job as well. Other professional, I never want our city to go through anything like the flood in 2015, but I do think I learned so much about myself and my wonderful, wonderful staff, and how we dig really deep when we have to. And that was a learning experience. But I'm so thankful that our community is thriving and came out of that as well as it did. I don't know. I'm happy to serve as the president of the South Carolina City and County Managers and Administrators currently. I look forward to professionally developing others and myself. So I think those are all accomplishments.
there any other questions that we have for Teresa? What motivates you every day to get up and continue to do the work for the city?
I do want to see through some projects. You know, some of them I can't just come outright and say, but we will soon. But I am motivated by where I see the city going. You know, people get really excited, and I'm sensing it. I don't know, you all may can shed light on this for me too, because I'm always talking to people about this now. Like, what are you looking for? Like, I know that we need certain types of housing product in our city that's affordable, but also offers certain amenities for professionals and seniors and all of those things. And I feel like this council right now, based off the good foundational work of previous councils, has a lot of opportunity in front of it for us to actually implement some of these things. The waterfront being developed. I mean, we have beautiful outdoor spaces that we have not maximized to their full potential. It is going to happen. Our downtown, whether it's through, you know, Saturdays at Soda City, or other, you know, foodie type environments that I see continuing to develop in Columbia, is thriving. So we really want to maximize that. And it's sort of like sometimes you are at a crossroads, and that is motivating me to keep doing this a little while longer, if the council will have me in this role to see some of these things through.
Where do you see your next big adventure?
You know, I still have the little itch at times to lobby and advocate. I've maintained good relationships with state government officials. I think I have. Whether it takes me doing something like that still for government, but a different level of government, or a private sector, I still see myself working in those spaces of advocacy for others. And I also really like the idea of consulting for smaller communities, because when I go to conferences like the Municipal Association of South Carolina or others, and a lot of the elected officials are there from smaller towns and communities, they have the potential and capabilities to do great things. The leadership has to be there from a staff perspective. And I always see how they seem to be proud of me, some of them that I've gotten to know over the years, and things that we're doing in Columbia. So I would love to share what I've learned and maybe my expertise in a consulting role maybe one day for them.
Right. You know, we all need something to be like our next big adventure, even if we don't quite get there. There's always
That's
that.
very true.
Yes.
And I want to travel. I mean, personally, Trish, I do want to travel more and make time for that.
And you should, because I can tell you at my age now, there's a lot more freedom, and I take advantage of it.
That's right.
Okay. It is good to hear the passion of Ms. Williams' voice about being city manager, all the challenges this position entails. As a veteran, I retired 10 years ago, and I really needed to hear her commitment and dedication about a city I now call home. Thank you very much. That is, and I'm originally from Columbia, and I have family there. And being part of the American Association of University Women, I used to go lobby every year at the State House. And my mother was on city council in Beaufort, South Carolina for 23 years, and she was part of the municipality association. So I'm very familiar of those things that you talk about. In my particular profession, we have a network of women that get together once a month on Zoom to talk about the industry and so forth. Do you have that same kind of network of women that you can get together and talk about those sorts of things? And how does that help you if you do?
Right. I wish we got together more. There is a network with local government women. I probably talk the most to the women I keep around me. I have 5 assistant city managers. 2 of them are women and have been my colleagues and friends for a long time. They're amazing. And we lean into each other every day. And several other female department heads. I mean, I'm a woman, and I'm always, taking the opportunity to build up those women around me and make sure we're purposefully hiring women when they're just as qualified to do the jobs that we have available to us in the city. So I do have that network, and yes, there is a broader network of women in local government that I lean into as well. And you're exactly right. I mean, sometimes you just need to talk to those women.
How do you navigate your relationship with council? I imagine there's potential for conflict since you're entrusted with implementing their decisions, and since you're working full-time for city and may have a different perspective than they do. And that was from Emily.
That's a great, real question. And I guess I hope to think that I've navigated it pretty well, because the tenure of a city manager is typically a lot shorter than my tenure. And I've onboarded, I'm about to onboard Councilman-elect Tyler Bailey as a new council member for city council. And I've worked with multiple mayors now, and unfortunately had to experience losing 2 council members at 2 different times, 2 different seated councils, who passed away during their tenure. So I've seen and been around a lot of different experiences with them, and I try to meet them, just like I said, with citizens or employees where they are, because they all have different things that are important to them particularly, but they all, I must say, recognize that they have to work together collectively as well. And so I try to come to them as individuals, but remind them of the collective priorities of the council and what can I do to help meet their needs with the things they're trying to achieve individually and collectively, and just be honest with them. And like I said earlier, not get my feelings hurt too badly when they're like, "Thank you, Teresa, but nope, I'm gonna do it this way." And I'll say, "Okay." And then, sometimes they'll come back and say, "All right, that might not have gone like I thought. So what else can we do?" And so I'd say, let's find the solution. But just trying to always be open-minded, honest. Confidentiality is certainly important, and them having that level of trust in me. And I think they, gotten to know me in that way. So it's working out so far, but it's not perfect. It's never perfect. And I think that's part of it too, Emily, being in it this long. Like, I just try to do my best every day. And I know that I work at their whim, so they could change their mind with what direction they want to go for the leadership of the city. And it's okay, because I sleep well at night. I'm going to do the right things. And I think they have that level of understanding with me, I guess is what it is.
Sometimes you have to take a deep breath before you talk.
Yeah, that is very true. I still have to work on my facial expressions though.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God for Zoom and taking the camera off sometimes, because they don't see my facial expressions sometimes, because I do not have a good picture.
That's right, Trish. My staff says I've gotten better with that over the years, but I don't know.
I think that's a cultivation we all should learn, is how to have a really good blank poker face. So women tend to put their emotions on their face anyway.
Exactly, that's right.
I'm like, sometimes I look like, really? You did not just say that. And I have to, it's a good thing there's a mute button, because sometimes my mouth gets ahead of my brain.
That's right. That me too. That's right.
Little harder in person than it is on the Zoom. But
yeah. Yes, that's right.
Well, it's getting close. We still have 10 minutes left, but I just wanted to say thank you again for your time and your energy for what you do and coming and talking to these great women that are part of Women in Leadership. We're going to, are we meeting next month, Emily, or are we taking December off? What are we doing, hon?
Yeah, we're meeting next week, December 5th, and we'll be joined by Lacenta Lewis Ellis. And she actually owns her own contracting business. So she'll be talking about what it's like working in a male-dominated industry.
Oh, what a pleasure y'all have in store. Lacenta's amazing. I see a lot of amazing names. I can't see all the faces. I don't even know if I'm seeing all the names, but hey, Erica, hey, Effie, my sorority sister. I'm so just pleased that you all would have that you all had me, and I'm really excited about the work and this safe space that's been created through Women in Leadership to cultivate women in government, women wanting to run for office, whatever it might be. We just have to support and encourage and pour into each other, and I'm here for that. So thank you for so much for including me.
You're so welcome. And I would say 99.9% of the women we've had as guest speakers have been very inspirational and have given us all kind of a shove to do things we were uncomfortable with. And I think sometimes women don't take risk. And so we're encouraging them to start taking risk and to do things, because if we don't get out of our comfort zone, we're never going to get where we want to go. And that's one of the reasons we do this. We're always looking for speakers. So if anybody on the Zoom has any recommendations, particularly if the person lives in South Carolina, that's good. Or if they know someone like I did when I brought Fawn Germer on, who was a national speaker and motivational speaker. We would love to hear from you, because it's a lot of work for Emily and I to come up with these folks, mostly Emily, because she's really good at bringing people in, and Barbara knows everybody, I think, in South Carolina. She's a force herself, and we think she should run for office.
I agree.
I wouldn't have that job, I'm sorry. But most of us appreciate everything all of y'all have done for us in showing young girls particularly that there is a seat at the table. We just have to demand it.
Yes, absolutely.
And if there's no more questions,
there's Teresa. Hey, Teresa, Countess Davis. I'm sorry. That's what happens when you start calling names. I'm sorry.
No, you call as many names as you want. They're your friends. We love that. I see some people on here that I know their names, but I haven't seen them in a long time. And COVID did that to a lot of us, kind of brought back people and also separated people. So it just depends on which way you look at it. And it can be a blessing or a curse at the same time. But if there is no other questions, and if anyone else has nothing else they would like to contribute, we're going to cut off a little bit early today, about 5 minutes, and we'll see you next week at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. So thanks again, Emily, for making sure we all get going and we're up and to speed. And again, thank you, Teresa. We really appreciate all your work you do for Columbia.
Thank you, ladies. Great seeing you. Great being with you today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.